Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. If you're new around here, my name is Dara Jordan, and today we're going to be talking about 3 advantages of backpacking alone and 3 disadvantages of backpacking alone. So if you haven't seen my previous video, I would advise go checking that out. Basically, in February, thankfully, I went when I did. I went to Australia for just under 3 weeks, and I went backpacking up the East Coast. So, in Sydney, Cairns, Brisbane, Rainbow Beach, went out to Fraser Island. If you want to go check that out, it'll be right here. I went and had an amazing time, but I went alone. Now, if you're Irish watching this, that sounds a bit unusual, backpacking alone, but actually internationally, and many people I met while over there, I would say a solid 50% of people I met over there were actually backpacking alone. International people from Europe, America, North America, South America. It was a unique experience in the fact that I'd never traveled alone before. So anyway, I've kind of broken it down to kind of 3 advantages, 3 disadvantages. And before I get into it, quickly, I want you to subscribe down below. A large percentage of you are not subscribed. So please, it'll be helping me out. I want to keep growing this, I want to keep building it. Please subscribe down below and like the video. So let's get started. So we'll start with the advantages, start with the positives. First thing is, and it sounds very obvious, you are forced to meet new people. You walk into that new hostel, you're in a new city, you don't know anyone, and you go into a room where you're usually with anywhere from 3 to 7 other people, and it's usually typically quite easy. Just introduce yourself, start a conversation. In the 3 weeks I was staying in hostels, it's very rare where you'll meet someone and they're not interested in all having a conversation. Everyone's there, away from home, and want to have a conversation. Yes, it does take a lot, especially if you're introverted, and even if you're an extrovert, at times you will not want to be extroverted. You'll just want to be by yourself. But I would so advise pushing yourself, because you'd be amazed with the conversations you'll have and the people you will meet. I met some amazing people, and if I hadn't made that first step or that first effort, I would never have had a conversation with them. So strongly advise doing that. But yeah, you meet amazing people from all around the globe. Number 2, so opens your mind to new cultures. So typically in your country, a lot of people have the same religion, have the same habits and routines and sports they play. It can be quite repetitive. But when you go out and meet people from different cultures, from different countries, you can learn a lot, find out new things, find out what they eat, their typical routine, sports that are big in their countries, and it makes you more open-minded. Like, the more you learn about more countries, the better, I think. And I don't think it just makes you more open-minded. I thought it was quite interesting, because it can be very easy just to stay put and go to the pub or nightclub locally every weekend for years on end and not really get to learn about other cultures and experience that. So I thought that was quite interesting, and it was a really high point for me. The third advantage is you travel on your own terms. It's something very unique in the fact that when you go away, you go, okay, what am I going to do today? Whatever you want. I thought it was quite good to have a structure, especially if you're traveling for a short period of time. I definitely advise having a very structured plan, because days can slip away quite quickly, but you are traveling on your own terms. Go where you want, when you want to, and it can be almost easier, you can be more versatile, especially when you're by yourself. You can go make plans on a whim. If someone in your hostel is like, I'm going to the Blue Mountains today, do you want to come? It does mean that if someone throws an idea, which happens very frequently in hostels where there's just a day trip, do you want to come along? You go, yeah, absolutely. You don't have to consult with anyone else. It is an advantage in itself. I found that was quite nice in the fact that, like, if someone's like, oh, we're going to have a few drinks down the bar, down the road, do you want to come? Yeah, sure, why not? And again, you're just meeting new people, and like I said, people you meet can be really amazing. There are the few advantages that I found while backpacking alone. I'll move on to a few of the disadvantages. One, I suppose the most obvious one, is it can be lonely at times. From personal experience, I didn't find it too bad. I think the fact that I was constantly moving, I was only staying in cities for a short period of time, and I had a lot jam-packed typically into those trips. I was always on the move, which meant that when I'm traveling or doing day tours or, you know, going doing skydive, you're surrounded by people, you can start conversations. You are alone, but if you start a conversation, you're typically talking to someone, and you can choose at any time, obviously, not to talk to people, but I do feel like that make me feel more lonely, so I enjoyed having a chat with strangers. You know, at times you can feel lonely, especially if there's a language barrier and there's no one in your hostel or locally that speaks the same language as you, so that could be difficult. But I suppose I'm coming from perspective of going to another English speaking country. But yes, it can be lonely at times. But for the most part, if you're willing to make that effort and make a conversation, you should be okay. So I touched on this in the last point, but point number 2 is a language barrier. And this is something personally I can't speak on because I have gone to countries where their first language isn't English, but I've never been traveling alone. So I suppose hostels, you typically have a very wide variety of people from different countries and different languages. So unless you're going to a very small village, I suppose you probably would be able to find someone who can speak your language. But, and saying that, language barrier can be an issue, and that would feed into the loneliness part as well. Now, I wouldn't say, now again, I'm speaking from going to an English speaking country. I don't really know, but I could see language barrier being a slight issue, especially if you're traveling alone in smaller towns and villages. And the third thing, and it's something that it's very dependent hostel to hostel, is looking after your stuff. So obviously if you're backpacking, you're going to be bringing all the belongings you own with you when you move to a new hostel or you move along. Some hostels have big lockers that you can put your big travel bags into, your big backpacks, and some just don't. You are going to have to bring your own lock typically. I had to go buy one because I hadn't brought one with me. But a lot of hostels a lot of the better hostels do have lockers there in the rooms that you can lock your bag in. Or if you're out for the day and you really don't feel unsafe, there is usually rooms behind reception that you can ask to leave your stuff in. But what I found anyway, and I stayed in 4 or 5 hostels, was that there's kind of an unspoken rule that all my stuff is here, all your stuff is here. I won't touch your stuff and you won't touch my stuff. Now again, maybe I've been a bit naive in thinking that, but that is the kind of vibe I got while traveling. There was one main hostel in Cairns that only had a very small locker that my Mac could barely fit into. I had to put it at an angle to try and get it in. But again, nothing of mine ever went missing. If it went missing, it was because I misplaced it or I didn't put it in the right place and I found it afterwards. To be honest, I never had an issue with my stuff getting stolen. Now that is not a universal 100% your stuff is never going to get taken in a hostel, but I did find in all the hostels I stayed in that there was a universal rule that, I won't touch your stuff, you don't touch my stuff. And usually if you introduce yourself and you have that personal connection, people are less likely to take your stuff as well, or message your stuff, because everyone's in the hostels there traveling, wanting to have a good time typically. Yeah, overall, so as a conclusion, I would advise traveling alone. I think it's an experience that a lot of people should have. I kind of booked this trip. I booked Australia on a whim. It was kind of an impulsive moment in October, and I'm so glad I did it. Obviously it's very daunting when you're getting dropped off the airport. You're like, okay, I'm gonna have to, spend a lot of time alone. But realistically, get a few audiobooks, have a few podcasts, especially when you're flying. You can be flying for hours, and just go with it. Really, genuinely do it. And I know on my channel I've spoken about this quite consistently over the last nearly 2 years of doing YouTube, is get out of your comfort zone. The more you push yourself out of your comfort zone, the more amazing things that happen, and the more I look back on my life, all the things I'm so appreciative of and all the things I value the most happened because I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. So I could not advise more traveling alone. Now again, I'm speaking from going to an English speaking country. I can't speak to going to a non-English speaking country, but I hope eventually I'll get to travel alone to those places as well. If you did enjoy the video, please subscribe down below. We're pushing for 2K now. There's going to be a business video next week for anyone who enjoys those. It's going to be talking about the finances, our first year in business. So if anyone's interested in that, go enjoy that. But yeah, hope you all are keeping safe, keeping quarantined. And yeah, we will see you next week. Good night, or live.